I love the Barnhart kind of vibe of how we do business. It's very much about interpersonal team communication.
I tell everybody that this is the best job I've had, and I've had several. It's the expectations are clear, right? The workload is high, but there's peaks and valleys.
The biggest thing I can say about working here that's been a good experience for me is that I can make a difference. You know, the more effort you put in, you can see your effort bear fruit for the branch. The teamwork that we have here, the teamwork between us and the Memphis Service Center and the one team, it's just been fun. It's a different experience from corporate America. I don't miss that at all.
The people of Barnhart. They are part of what separates us from our competition. In this episode, we will hear from different Barnhart team members. They were interviewed for the purpose of sharing about the different Barnhart projects they were a part of. These projects were then submitted for the Specialized Crane and Rigging Association's Job of the Year Awards. Both projects won Job of the Year in their respective categories. Philadelphia won Rigging Job of the Year for over $2 million, and Mobile won Rigging Job of the Year for $150,000 to $750,000. Barnhart is extremely proud of everyone who worked on these projects. To learn more about Barnhart, go to barnhartcrane.com. And now, episode 2 of Minds Over Matter. It was the best decision I ever made.
So I graduated with a construction management degree from University of West Florida in Pensacola. 98, traveled for several years. And then I've been here 9 years now. So I started in 2014. Was looking to stop traveling. I was normally gone about 340 days a year prior to coming to Barnhart, and found a job. I live still in Pensacola. And so interviewed, like I said, multiple interviews, just basically looking for somewhere that did not have as much travel. And so I've been here now, project manager, spent a lot of time over at Chevron over the last 5 years, and then back over in Mobile now, back executing project type work. I tell everybody that this is the best job I've had, and I've had several. It's the expectations are clear, right? The workload is high, but there's peaks and valleys. And most of our jobs last, a long job for us may be a month. I can tell you, if working from the general contractor side, you go on jobs that are 18 months, 2 years, and every single one of them is painful. And so no matter how difficult or how painful one of our jobs may be, they end really fast. The Band-Aid comes off on all of our work really quickly. So I wouldn't work anywhere else.
My story is pretty cut and dry, right? So I used to work in upstate New York for General Electric, and I was a logistics project manager for them for the gas and steam turbine power plants. So how I knew Barnhart is I used to hire you all. All right, so the first person I met, Tracy Henry, longtime Barnhart guy, and then the second person I met was Reagan Watson. And Reagan and I hit it off right away. And he helped me execute some big time projects for GE, the biggest of which was actually out in Ohio, the Carroll County Power Station. And so just kind of stayed in touch with those guys through the years, hired them for different projects here and there, stayed in touch. And at one point, GE was going through a reorganization, and they were basically removing part or all of our roles, right? So I didn't want to move into a different side of the business. I wasn't really interested in that. And it just so happened to coincide with when I had met my wife, and she was in Washington, D.C., but she was originally from Philadelphia. So we're like, hey, can we meet in the middle in Philadelphia, and I'll start looking for a job there. It was kind of just, I don't know what it was, fate, but the Philadelphia branch had a project development job opening. And I was like, man, I used to love working with those guys on my projects. I wonder what it is like on the other side of the table. And came in, went for the interview, and started working 3 weeks later. So it was a quick turnaround, and then all of a sudden I'm here in Philly, and it's been an awesome 5 years. I love the Barnhart kind of vibe of how we do business. It's very much about interpersonal team communication. A lot of times in those bigger companies, right, you're coming from a General Electric, Siemens, Westinghouse, you kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit, and even the people with the best ideas, it's tough to be heard. You know, you're in part of a massive machine, right? 150,000 employees. Well, at Barnhart, I'm one of 1,500, right? And the value that you bring to day-to-day projects, it feels like it matters more. And that's really rewarding. And plus, we get to do really cool stuff. It's always different. You never know what phone calls you're gonna get. And it just keeps me coming back every day.
11 years, I've been here 11 years. Actually, a friend of mine talked me into going to work for him, which he went to work for him 20 years ago and tried to talk me into going then. And I said, nah, I don't want to go to work for him. I don't want to go work with him. Well, here I am now, 11 years later. I wish I'd have listened to him a long time ago and went ahead and bit the bullet and come on over here, because I've enjoyed all 11 years of being here, and I wouldn't go nowhere else. So.
I started working at odd jobs down at refineries. I was just a kid in my 20s, early 20s. So I got involved in a lot of nuclear mods and projects, and so I ended up, moving my way up to the director's level, and they gave me the Entergy fleet, the Exelon fleet, which was a little bit. That was a lot of plants. It was a point in my life, and I should have had this earlier, I had enough of traveling. And you can keep your freaking flyer miles, you can keep your upgrades. I had enough of that. So my boss at the time asked me, he said, would you mind going down there? Listen, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, I've had enough of this travel. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 3 months. I said, but I'm at the point where I need to find something close to home. I just need to be home. Barnhart called me and asked me if I was interested. Next thing you know, I got a call like almost the same day, or maybe a day later. Hey, you did really good in that project manager's test. I said, I did. I said, I really wasn't trying. And they said, will you be interested in coming to work for us? I said, well, yeah, but I really don't want to be in Tennessee. And the person on the telephone said, well, it's not in Tennessee. It's in the Philadelphia area. And I said, you now have my attention. So apparently I did fine with that. And then they brought me in here for an interview, called him up and said, hey, Doug, I got this opportunity. He said, go for it, Mikey. Do it. Wish you the best. And we still stay in touch from time to time. And these jobs are actually, to me, they're easier now, because when I first came here, I really didn't understand how this equipment worked. But after I earned the respect of the craft, they really took me in, they started helping me out. And every day I'm learning something though. It's been great ever since. It's almost 6 years now I've been here, and I don't have any regrets.
So I graduated from college in 2007 as a mechanical engineer from UVA. I worked at a company in Memphis that it was just a typical consulting engineering company. There were 100 engineers. It was Allen and Hoschel. It was a very old company. And I had interned at this company, and the way it worked was they'd replace engineers, or the guys would retire like every 3 years. So when I started, there were six mechanical engineers. I was the intern, and there was an engineer every 5 years. It was a great thing. And it was a really cool company that I interned with, and my parents had moved from Virginia to Tennessee. And so they offered me an internship after college, and I was like, man, I've been dating this girl, I know what I'm getting into. So I came on with the company, worked there for 5 years doing HVAC, plumbing, fire protection, designing schools and stuff, and it was really fun. And then in 2011, we just didn't have any work to do. And all of a sudden it just people stopped building things. And we had 3 different stages of layoffs. And at the time I had a really good friend, and we would all go in the garage and work on, we'd change the oil in our motorcycles and stuff and just hang out and listen to John Prine and have a really good time. This other guy would talk about his job, and he was a mechanical engineer. The other guy was like a farmer. But the other guy was talking about his job, and he worked at Barnhart, and he was only here for 1 year. And he was saying what he was working on, which he was actually working on Big Al at the time. And he would talk about all the stuff he was doing every day. And I was like, man, if I could go to work and be around cranes, like that would be like that sounds like that would be like such a great job. And I think I asked him, like, what kind of engineer are you? And he's like, mechanical. And I'm like, can I do that? And so I applied to work at Barnhart at the time because I was kind of dissatisfied. I wanted to do something different anyways. And something happened with my resume. It was misread and they threw it out at the time. And then I got laid off eventually, and I had just gotten my MBA, and Kevin Westbrook was one of my professors that he teaches the sales class. And so when I got laid off, I was looking for another job, and I had like three pretty hot opportunities. And I thought I was kind of dismissive of Barnhart because nobody called me back, and they was like, well, I guess they don't want to hire me, so I'll go to one of these other three jobs. And Kevin, I'd asked Kevin, because I was like, man, I'm looking for a job. If you know of anything, I just graduated from my MBA. I'm thinking about doing something non-engineering. If you have any ideas. And he's like, man, you really should go to Barnhart. You'd be a perfect cultural fit at Barnhart. And I'm like, I tried, and they didn't call me back. And he's like, well, let me call somebody. So he called Sean Sipe, and then I had like the longest interview of my life, like over the phone. And so then after that, he brought me in, and I interviewed for like hours and hours and hours with all the engineers. And Jim was the last guy to come in. And I asked Jim, and I'll always remember, I was like, how do you balance I've got a bunch of kids and a wife, because I had identical twins and 3 kids at the time. Now I have 5. And I was asking Jim, like, how do you balance home life and work life? And he's like, you don't balance it, Kyle. You're going to be an excellent engineer, and you're going to be an excellent dad, and you're going to be an excellent husband. And I was like, thanks for the practical advice, Jim. But after that, I was an engineer for, I think, 5 years. I spent some time, I was involved in a lot of really cool projects, and then spent some time with Randy Lewis in the Northeast doing a barge job. I got to be an assistant branch manager for a couple of years, got to go to Shreveport for 3 months and did project management and sales with Tim Fielder. Spent like a year and a half with Tim, and then landed in Mobile as a branch engineer for a couple of years. And then I shifted over to sales, and I've been having a lot of fun for the last 2 years in sales. More fun than anything else. And I really enjoyed engineering. So it's something to be said.
For me, coming to Barnhart was like coming home for me. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, so I'd done some design work, worked in refineries, did some project engineering, some sales over the years, and I moved away from a technical kind of a sales environment, and was doing work with financial services. And after about a decade in that marketplace, I got stale, I got dried up, and wanted to make a change. And the opportunity to come to Barnhart came, I just happened to be looking online. Now, back in the day when I first got out of school and was working as a pressure vessel design engineer for Foster Wheeler USA out of Clinton, New Jersey, we were designing pressure vessels. And I remember the one job we had were some coke drums that were headed to I believe it was Deer Park, Texas, a refinery down there. And they were getting fabricated in Italy. And they were getting transported from Italy to Texas, where they were going to be set. And I remember seeing a heavy hauler and the Goldhofer transporter and the heavy lift cranes and setting and tailing. I mean, we were responsible for designing and lifting and tailing lugs, but to me, the lifting and setting of this large equipment and the logistics of getting it from Italy to the plant stuck with me. So roll the clock forward, I'm going 20 years forward now. I'm thinking, trying to get back to my roots engineering, and I see an opportunity to work at Barnhart in Philadelphia. And I start seeing Goldhofer, I see gantry, I see heavy lift cranes. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking at back when I first started my career. I'm going to apply here. And I did, applied, and fortunately for me, Barnhart gave me a shot to come work for them. And it's been a fun ride ever since. So it's been a very good ride. Of course, there's ups and downs, but every day we get to try to do something new. And the biggest thing I can say about working here that's been a good experience for me is that I can make a difference. The more effort you put in, you can see your effort bear fruit for the branch. The teamwork that we have here, the teamwork between us and the Memphis Service Center and the one team, it's just been fun. It's a different experience from corporate America. I don't miss that at all.